and a very warm welcome to everyone who is watching this broadcast. This is Kritya Poetry Festival Live. It was Max Dupree who said that we cannot become what we want by staying what we are. And that's very true of Rati Saxena, who's the founder of the Kritya Poetry Festival and who's been putting this together for many, many years. And this year, she's gone online, given the circumstances. This evening, too, we have a very stellar lineup of poets who are going to read their poems for you. Before I invite the poets, I'd like to invite Rati Saxena, the founder of the Kritya Poetry Festival, to say a few words about the Kritya Festival. Over to you, Rati.
Good evening. I think I will invite our guests also so they can hear to me. So I am inviting my guest first on the dais. Namaskar. So welcome to Kritya International Poetry Festival 2021. The Kritya started in 2005. The Sachidanand knows that our great master and a great poet, Ayappa Panikar, dreamed for Kritya, and we are just carrying his dream for 15 years. This is the only nomadic poetry festival where we go to different places. Like we have gone to Punjab, Jammu Kashmir, Mysore, Nagpur, Bardha, and then we celebrated here in Kerala, which is our native state where we stay here. Then Kritya has another thing. We follow all languages. This is a three languages follow. The three language formula we strictly follow when it is a live festival. Third thing, that it is a poetic therapy, because we go to orphanage, we go to villages, we go to school, colleges, and hospitals, and we go to prisons also with poets and with poetry. We don't sit on the dais and wait for the people. And the most important thing is this Kritya is no funding, no supported from the corporates. Yes, many times when Sachidananda was in Sahitya Academy, and then there's many times Sahitya Academy and central government 2-3 years, we got a very little support. But Sahitya Academy, until he was there, we were getting at least that airfare for the poets. After that, we were getting nothing, and from 2015 there was no money at all, and we never bothered. We run poetry festival without money and without asking money from the poets or for people. And so how we run, that is a magic, because our all the poets work for it, not only me, that thousands people work for it. So I am grateful to everyone who are with the journey of Kritya. Moreover, in this pandemic time, Kritya was super active. We have, this is the third poetry festival in pandemic. 2020 we have recorded festival, and then we had a Central American Poetry Festival. Then we had 75 talks to the artists, journalists, to the dancers, the musicians, the small filmmakers, and many places. And this is the live. This is another kind of poetry festival. I'm thankful to I welcome to Sachidanandan for that, because it is his 75th birthday, and he was with Kritya from from the very starting, from 2005. I really welcoming speech will be given by Vinita, but I really grateful to Koun. So he is such a great poet, and he is here with his wonderful poetry. Vishal Bharadwaj, I'm fan of, not only me, many thousands are fan of your film, and then we listen your poetry reading along with Sukrita. So a poet from that era is also very important for us. And then I really appreciate Sukrita Palkumar and Vinita Agrawal and Rekha Sethi, who are in this dais with support to Kritya. So I welcome you again to the Kritya, which is poetic therapy, which is the world power, and which is for the for the poetry only. Thank you very much. Welcome to all.
K. Sachidanandan. He needs absolutely no introduction whatsoever, but I would like to introduce him very briefly. K. Sachidanandan is an Indian poet and critic writing in Malayalam and English. A pioneer of modern poetry in Malayalam, a bilingual literary critic, playwright, editor, columnist, translator, he is the former editor of Indian Literature Sahitya Academy. He is also social advocate for secular anti-caste views, supporting causes like environment, human rights, and free software, and is a well-known speaker on issues concerning contemporary Indian literature. Over to you, Sachi, for your inaugural speech, please, and for your poems too.
Thank you, Rati. Thank you, Vinita. As Rati Saxena has already said, I have been a part of Kritya Festival, and I don't consider myself a guest in any sense of the term, because I have been with the organizers, one of the advisors to the festival, and it's my pleasure today to not to give a long inaugural lecture, but a very short uh, speech on what poetry means to me, and what poetry perhaps means to many, many of us. I have always believed that poetry is the shared mother tongue of all human beings across nations, and it is a language that survived the Tower of Babel. No wonder it has survived Plato's Republic, Hitler's Auschwitz, and Stalin's Gulag, and still whispers in its uneasy truths into the human ear, trained through centuries to capture the most nuanced of voices. And in dark times like these, it works as the most potent link that connects human beings from across the world, as exemplified by this festival, for example. And poetry, to me, is a conversation with oneself, a conversation with others, that we call society, with the history, with nature, and with cosmos or God, if you may choose to call it so. It is no mere combinatorial game. It rises up from the ocean of the unsayable, tries to say what it cannot say, to name the nameless, and to give a voice to the voiceless. It is no mere reproduction of established values and recognized truths. It is, as Italo Calvino says, an eye that sees beyond the color spectrum of everyday politics, and an ear that goes beyond the frequencies of sociology. The truths it discovers may not often be of immediate relevance, but gradually become central to our consciousness. I also share Pablo Neruda's concept of poetry that bears the dust of distances and smells of lilies and urine, a poetry that is often created out of words salvaged from the wreck of languages and of nations. Poetry differs from prose not by following a meter or rhythm. There are many metrical poems that are worse than prose. The difference lies in its power to dissolve paradoxes and its way of imagining things into being and connecting words and memories. Rhyme and rhythm may, of course, help to invoke an atmosphere. Its attraction is in what lies beyond the dictionary. It recovers words and experiences exiled from memory. The search for it is a solitary trip without maps. Poetry, too, has those moments of revelation when, like a whirlwind, it subverts all logic and pulls down all preconceived projects. Every poet worth his or her salt must have felt the thrill and the terror of such moments of epiphany, at least in the best moments of their inspiration. My own commitment as a poet is largely ethical to certain values like justice, equality, freedom, love, respect for all forms of life. These have become all the more significant in a world governed by the values of the market and increasingly and violently being colonized by the forces of globalization. While I find no contradiction between the sacred and the secular, I can well be spiritual without being religious. This is something I have learned from our saint and Sufi poets and reformers like Kabir and Gandhi, who battled against hierarchies of every kind and challenged power in its diverse manifestations. A poet does not need any religion other than poetry itself. Nothing can scare poetry except the suffocating silence of a world where the soul has ceased to speak and man cannot decipher the language of leaves and of waterfalls. I hope not to survive to see that day when the universe is deprived of its sacredness and evil prevails unquestioned. With these few words, I declare this year's Kritya Poetry Festival inaugurated, and I will straight away enter some of my poems. I'll present quite a few of them in English. In my own English versions, I write only in Malayalam, even though I am often introduced as a bilingual poet. I write only in Malayalam. What you see in English are my own English versions of my poetry. So I'll present 4 poems in the English version and 1 in the Malayalam version. And some will be followed by Hindi translations too, which Rekha Sethi has so beautifully done. Gandhi and Poetry. It's an old poem. Some of you must have listened to that, but the choice was Reti's, and I happily yielded to her decision. Gandhi and Poetry. One day, a lean poem reached Gandhi's ashram to have a glimpse of the man. Gandhi, spinning away his thread towards Ram, took no notice of the poem, waiting at his door, ashamed as he was no Bhajan. The poem cleared his throat, and Gandhi looked at him sideways through those glasses that had seen hell. Have you ever spun thread? He asked. Ever pulled a scavenger's cart? Ever stood the smoke of an early morning kitchen? Have you ever starved? The poem said, I was born in the woods, in a hunter's mouth. A fisherman brought me up in his hamlet. Yet I know no work. I only sing. First I sang in the courts. Then I was plump and handsome. But I'm on the streets now, half starved. That's better, Gandhi said with a sly smile. But you must give up this habit of speaking in Sanskrit at times. Go to the fields, listen to the peasant's speech. The poem turned into a grain and lay waiting in the fields for the tiller to come and upturn the virgin soil moist with the new rain. The second poem I'll read in Malayalam and it will be followed by a Hindi translation. It's also about Gandhi. I have a whole series of poems on Gandhi. I have just written a new poem also on Gandhi, on the shoemaker of Sabarmati. Well, this poem is called Salt. In Malayalam, Uppu. I'll read it in Malayalam. Uppu. 90 വർഷം മുമ്പ് സമുദ്രത്തിന്റെ നിരന്തര തരംഗങ്ങളുടെ വിയർപ്പ് വറ്റിച്ച് ഞങ്ങൾ ഉണ്ടാക്കി ഒരു പിടി ഉപ്പ്. മെലിഞ്ഞ ഒരു കയ്യിൽ ഉയർത്തിപ്പിടിച്ച ലോലമായ വെളുപ്പിൻ്റെ ഒരു മൊട്ട്. ഒരു കൈ പെട്ടെന്ന് വിലങ്ങണിഞ്ഞ 60,000 കൈകളായി. സൂര്യൻ അസ്തമിക്കാത്ത സാമ്രാജ്യത്തിനെതിരെ ഉയർത്തിപ്പിടിച്ച പല കോടി മുഷ്ടികളായി. അന്ന് മുതൽ സത്യം തടവിലാക്കപ്പെട്ട ഉപ്പ് എന്ന് അറിയപ്പെട്ടു. രാമൻ, അള്ളാഹ്, ഖുദ, മിശിഹ എല്ലാമായിരുന്നു ഞങ്ങൾക്ക് ആ ഉപ്പ്. കടൽനുരയിൽ നിന്നുയർന്ന് അടുക്കളയിലെത്തിയ പ്രവാചക, സ്വപ്നങ്ങളുടെ നിത്യസംരക്ഷകയായ വെള്ളച്ചിറകുള്ള മാലാഖ, ഒരു പിടി സ്വാതന്ത്ര്യം, ഒരു പിടി സമത്വം, ഒരു പിടി സ്നേഹം, ഒരു പിടി കാരുണ്യം, ഒരു ലവണബുദ്ധൻ. ഇന്ന് ഞങ്ങൾ ഒരിക്കൽ കൂടി ഉയർത്തുന്നു സമുദ്രനീലയുടെ പശ്ചാത്തലത്തിൽ വെളുത്ത ഉപ്പിൻ്റെ ഒരു പതാക. ഞങ്ങൾക്കിനിയും ദർശനം നൽകാതെ തെന്നിപ്പോകുന്ന കൃഷ്ണകേശിനിയായ സ്വാതന്ത്ര്യം. ഞങ്ങൾ ഇന്നും ചെവിയോർത്തിരിക്കുന്ന ശുഭ്രസമതയുടെ തുഷാര വിസ്താരം. ഞങ്ങളുടെ മാംസവും മിഴിനീരും കൊണ്ട് സ്വേദസുഗന്ധിയായ തയമ്പുറ്റ ഒരു കൈ. 90 വർഷം മുമ്പ് ഗാന്ധി ദണ്ഡിയിലുയർത്തിയ കലാപത്തിൻ്റെ മണൽത്തരികൾ പറ്റിപ്പിടിച്ച അരികു കറുത്ത നീതിയുടെ ഒരു പിടി ഉപ്പ്.
Thank you. This is translated by me directly from Malayalam. नमक. करीब 90 बरस पहले समंदर की लहराती लहरों से उसके पसीने को सुखाकर हमने निकाला था मुट्ठी भर नमक. नाजुक सी सफेद कली थी एक कृषकाय हाथ में. एक हाथ अचानक बदल गया 60,000 हाथों में. कभी न अस होने वाले साम्राज्य के खिलाफ करोड़ों मुट्ठियां खड़ी हो गईं और तभी से सत्य का अर्थ हमारे देश में हुआ नमक के लिए जेल भरना. ये नमक ही था हमारे लिए. ये नमक ही था हमारे लिए. राम, अल्लाह, खुदा, मसीहा, समुद्री झाग से निकला यह पैगंबर हमारी रसोई में प्रवेश कर गया. श्वेत परों वाली ये अप्सरा, हमारे सपनों का अप्रतिम स्वाद, मुट्ठी भर आजादी, मुट्ठी भर समानता. आज हम फिर से नमक पताका लहराते हैं. समंदर के नीला पश्चातल में आज हम फिर से नमक पताका फहराते हैं. हमारी श्यामल युवा आजादी हमारे नन्हे हाथों से फिसल रही है. हमारे कान सुनने को आतुर हो रहे हैं. निष्पक्ष समानता का बर्फीला विस्तार, पसीने की महक वाले रूखे हाथ हमारे मांस और हमारे हाथों में. न्याय की काले धार वाले नमक की एक मुट्ठी विद्रोह के दानों से दमकती है जिसे गांधी ने दांडी में पोसा था 90 साल पहले. 90 साल पहले. थैंक यू वेरी मच.
Thank you. I'll read the next poem in English, whose translation I think will be read in Hindi. Sculpting. A sculptor's chisel carves a sculpture in the wind that carries the fragrance of wild flowers. A boatman's night-hued oar carves a sculpture with the waves of the river. A captain's trained hands carve a sculpture in the cloud-wrapped sky. And I keep on carving with my sharp pen a sculpture of words that will never be complete. It slips away from the tenderness of the paper. My fingers tremble as if I am sculpting in time that never stands still enough for me to work. As if I am sculpting in time that never stands still enough for me to work. I think Rekha will read the translation in Hindi.
गढ़ना. एक मूर्तिकार की छैनी गढ़ती है प्रतिमा हवाओं में, जो बहा ले जाती खुशबू जंगली फूलों की। एक नाविक की पतवार गहरी रात के रंग सी गढ़ती है मूरत नदी की लहरों में। हवाओं में उड़ते विमानक गढ़ते हैं मूरत बादल लिपटे आकाश में। और मैं अपने कलम की नोक से गढ़ता जाता शब्दों का अंतहीन बिंब, कलम फिसलती जाती कागज की चिकनी सतह पर। कांपती हैं मेरी उंगलियां जैसे मैं गढ़ रहा समय जो स्थिर नहीं रहता।
I'll read the next poem. The Nation of Birds. The nation of birds has no borders, nor a constitution. All those who fly are its citizens, including poets. Its flag is the wing. Have you ever heard a cuckoo quarrel with a nightingale over their song? Or a crane driving a crow away for its color? If the owl hoots, it is not because it is jealous of the parrot. Has an ostrich or a penguin ever complained they can't fly? They begin chatting with the sky as soon as they are born. Clouds and rainbows descend to stroke them. At times, they lend their hues to the birds, like the cloud to the doves or the rainbow to the peacock. They dream seated between the sun and the moon. Then the sky fills with angels and stars. They can see even in the dark, chat with elves and fairies. They come down to earth to comfort the grass or to open the flowers with their song. The fruits and worms they eat burst out of their eggs with tiny wings. One day I tried living as a bird. I lost my nationality. Nation is a cage. It feeds you first for your song, and when it begins to dislike your song, for your meat.
पक्षियों का राष्ट्र। पक्षियों के राष्ट्र की कोई सीमाएं नहीं होती, ना ही कोई संविधान। वे सभी जो उड़ सकते हैं उसके नागरिक हैं। कवियों समेत पंख ही उनका ध्वज है। क्या आपने कभी सुना है कोयल को बुलबुल से झगड़ते उनके गीत के लिए, या सारस को कौए को हड़काते उसके रंग के लिए? उल्लू जब बोलता है तो इसलिए नहीं कि डाह है उसे तोते से। शतुरमुर्ग या पेंगुइन ने की है कभी शिकायत कि वो उड़ नहीं पाते? वे पैदा होते ही आसमान से बतियाते हैं। बादल और इंद्रधनुष उतर आते हैं, सहलाने उनको बहुत बार। वे दे जाते अपने रंग पक्षियों को, जैसे बादल फाख्ता को और इंद्रधनुष मोर को। सूरज और चांद के बीच बैठे जब वे सपने देखते हैं, तब आसमान भर जाता है देवदूतों और तारों से। वे अंधेरों में भी देख पाते हैं, बतियाते हैं बौनों और परियों से। उतर आते हैं धरती पर घास को सहलाने, या फिर बंद कलियों को खोलने अपने गीतों से। जो फल और कीट वे खाते हैं, फूट पड़ते हैं उनके अंडों से नन्हे पंख लिए। एक दिन मैंने कोशिश की कि पक्षी की तरह जीने की, खो बैठा अपनी राष्ट्रीयता। राष्ट्र एक पिंजरा है, वह पालता है तुम्हें पहले तुम्हारे गीत के लिए, और जब चुभने लगता है उसे गीत तुम्हारा, पालता है तुम्हें तुम्हारी मांस मज्जा के लिए। धन्यवाद।
Thank you, Reti and Rekha, for the beautiful translations. I will finish with a single poem called Women. Women. I don't think it's being translated, so just listen. One woman walks in a hurry, sobbing, a house with faded paint on her head. One woman goes on waiting at a railway station where no train stops. One woman with a halo of glowworms walks in the dark towards the stars. One woman makes sure her wings are in place before she launches herself into a flight. One woman steps into a cornfield in drought with a rain cloud on her shoulder. One woman sings a song, making a fruit tree in autumn burst into blossoms. One woman glints like a spark of fire in the ashes of her little house set on fire. One woman scoops up her baby and flees to the border, watching a fighter jet swoop down. One woman sharpens the letters of the alphabet and pulls out the fangs of the enveloping night. One woman closes the door of her house with a bang, walks out, and hums a medley on the street. One woman looks at the image of Jesus on the cross and yells in agony, "Son, my darling son." One woman leaves her man on the panel in Khajuraho and finds her pleasure herself. One woman, her muscles hardening as I look on, turns into a goddess of iron and fire. One woman sharpens her sickle again and again, rubbing it against a rock in a forest stream. One woman climbs up a tank and offers flowers to soldiers with the moon's smile. One woman, tired of her life on earth, leaves for space in a vehicle made of her own bones. One man stands aghast on the roadside, too scared to cross the road. One man stands aghast on the roadside, too scared to cross the road. Thank you.
Sachi, thank you very much for those evocative and thought provoking poems. As you know, the Kritya Poetry Festival respects all languages. So, from Malayalam to Hindi to English, we go down very far now to South Korea and invite a very illustrious guest of honor, Koen. May I just briefly introduce Koen to all of you? Koen is a South Korean poet whose works have been translated and published in more than 15 countries. He has been imprisoned many times due to his role in the campaign for Korean democracy and was later mentioned in Korea as one of the front runners for the Nobel Prize in Literature. Over to you, Koen.
어떤 기쁨? 지금 내가 생각하고 있는 것은 세계의 어디선가 누가 생각했던 것, 잊지 마라. 지금 내가 생각하고 있는 것은 세계의 어디선가 누가 생각하고 있는 것, 울지 마라. 지금 내가 생각하고 있는 것은 세계의 어디선가 누가 막 생각하려는 것, 울지 마라. 얼마나 기쁜 일인가. 이 세계에서 이 세계의 어디에서 나는 수많은 나로 이루어졌다. 얼마나 기쁜 일인가. 나는 수많은 남과 남으로 이루어졌다. 울지 마라.
A certain joy. This poem was एक खास खुशी. क्या मैं जो अब सोच रहा हूँ, क्या वह किसी ने पहले ही सोच लिया था? इसी विश्व के किसी कोने में रोना मत. क्या मैं जो अब सोच रहा हूँ, क्या वह वही है जो कोई और भी सोच रहा है अब इसी विश्व के किसी हिस्से में? रोना मत. क्या मैं जो अब सोच रहा हूँ, क्या वह वही है जिसे कोई सोचने वाला है इसी विश्व के किसी हिस्से में? रोना मत. कितना सुखद है ये कि मैं बना हूँ दुनिया में कितनों के मैं से इसी विश्व के किसी हिस्से में. कितना आनंदपूर्ण है यह कि मैं बना हूँ कितने अन्यों से जो नहीं रोते.
이 유사 수기사는 대부분 전쟁의 또 배척으로 채워져 있습니다. 인류의 진화 자체가 자연에서 타입이지요. 그러므로 평화의 의미는 언제나 새롭습니다. 평화 7. 3,000년의 마을, 아들의 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 마을. 3년에 한 번쯤 심힌 풀이로 윗눈과 아랫눈 굵고 싸움의 마을. 동구박 주막 사와술 막걸리 한 사발의 마을. 이 마을에서야 아무나 아무개나 아저씨이고 아우이고 숙모이고 누이였다. 벌소인 순철이 형이었다. 그 평화밖에는 나에게 평화가 온 적이 없다. 나야말로 평화의 척이었다. 나의 입에 자갈을 물려라.
Before reading the translation of this poem, I will read a small note from Koun, which he spoke in Korean. The history of man and world history are mostly filled with wars and exclusions. The evolution of humanity itself is by natural selection. Therefore, the meaning of peace is constantly new. He's written 2 poems on peace. First, I recite Peace 7. 3,000 साल पुराना गांव, बेटे का बेटे का बेटे का बेटे के बेटे का गांव. गांव जो दिल बहलाने को हर 3 साल में एक बार झगड़ता है पानी के अधिकार के लिए, ऊपर और नीचे के धान के लिए. गांव जिसके पास मानने मनाने को थी मकौली गांव की सीमा पर स्थित मधुशाला में. ऐसे गांव में हर कोई भी था. चाचा, मामा, छोटा भाई, बुआ, मौसी, बहन. जबकि सेंचॉय था बड़ा भाई जो मधुमक्खी के डंक से बींधा गया था. मैंने कभी शांति का अनुभव नहीं किया सिवाय उस शांति के. मैं शांति का दुश्मन था. गला दबा दो मेरा.
평화 3. 빛이라는 낱말에서 나는 피 묻은 시체를 본다. 빛이라는 낱말에서 나는 한밤중 포탄이 자결하는 광경을 본다. 크리스마스 이브의 불꽃놀이라고 환호했던다. 빛이라는 낱말에서 나는 침탈과 수탈을 본다. 빛이라는 낱말에서 석유를 본다. 빛이라는 낱말에서 중앙아시아 미 공군 기지를 본다. 우리는 다른 낱말을 찾아야 누구도 쓰지 않는 오래된 가장 새로운 낱말을 찾아야겠다. 아니, 죽은 말 산스크리트의 샨티를, 말레이시아의 기타를, 그 고요, 그 평화를, 그 우리 모두의 평화를, 또한 한국의 아버지가 그의 아들보다 먼저 죽는 것, 그 태평성대의 아침 평화.
इस कविता का शीर्षक भी शांति है। शांति शब्द में मैं देखता हूँ खून सनी लाशें। शांति शब्द में मैं देखता हूँ दृश्य गहरी रात में फटते बमों के। क्या वे उसे क्रिसमस की पूर्व संध्या पर पटाखे कहकर प्रशंसा नहीं करते रहे? शांति शब्द में मैं देखता हूँ आक्रमण और शोषण। शांति शब्द में मैं देखता हूँ तेल। शांति शब्द में मैं देखता हूँ मध्य एशिया में अमेरिकी हवाई ठिकाने। हमें कोई और शब्द ढूंढना होगा जो बहुत पहले पुराना पड़ गया, या फिर नया गढ़ना होगा एक शब्द जिसका प्रयोग कोई नहीं करता। संभवतः मृत हो चुकी संस्कृत भाषा का शब्द शांति, या मलेशियाई भाषा का किता माने हम, जो निशब्द शांति के मायने दे। शांति हम सब के लिए। कोरियाई भाषा का प्योंगवा भी सुबह की शांति जो बनाए रखती है उन सामान्य दिनों को जब मरते हैं पिता बेटों से पहले।
나는 수백 쪽 또는 수천 쪽이 넘는 긴 서사시도 썼습니다. 또 일행 혹은 이사명의 탄시도 썼지요. 그런 탄시들을 유아 순간의 꽃이라고 하는 이름의 시집을 낸 적도 있지요. 그 중에 몇 편을 읽어드리겠습니다. 푸른 하늘 아래 뱃속의 아기도 있다. 죽은 나무 가지에 매달린 천 개의 물방울, 비가 괜히 온 게 아니었고, 아무래도 미워하는 힘 이상으로 사랑하는 힘이 있어야겠어. 이 세상과 저 세상에는 사람 살만한 아침이 있다. 저녁이 있다. 밤이 있다. 버젓이 불밖에. 지난 여름 탱크가 지나간 자리에 올가을 구절초꽃 피었다. 걸어가는 사람이 제일 아름답더라. 누구와 만나 함께 걸어가는 사람이 제일 아름답더라. 소음구름 널린 하늘이더라.
Message from the poet about these 12 short poems. I have written grand epics, hundreds of pages, and even 1,000-page long. On the other hand, I have written many short poems of 1 line or 2 to 3 lines. A collection of such little poems has been published with the title of Flowers of a Moment. I'll read you some poems from it. So he just read these little poems in Korean. I read the English translation. Rowing with one oar, I lost that oar. For the first time, I looked round at the wide stretch of water. Two beggars are sharing the food they have been given. The new moon is shining intensely. A baby dragonfly perches on a bulrush tip. The entire world surrounds it. Beneath the blue sky, there is a baby in a womb. Every worm grows up to the sound of the hills, while infants in tombs grow up to the sound of waves. These are few of the poems which he read, just to give you a sample of it. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Koan and Rekha. Thank you very much for that beautiful translation, and Koan for that beautiful, very, very deeply thought out poetry. Thank you. Unfortunately, our second guest of honor, Hanan, who was to join us from Palestine, couldn't join us because of technical reasons. So we apologize for that. But we have Vishal Bharadwaj with us, who is our next guest of honor. And he also needs absolutely no introduction, but nevertheless, I will briefly introduce you to him. Vishal Bharadwaj is an Indian film director, screenwriter, producer, music composer, and playback singer. He is known for his work in Hindi cinema and is the recipient of 7 National Film Awards in 4 categories. And he's joined us as a poet today. Over to you, Vishal.
When we just heard this great poems by both of them, and it's so beautiful. And so I'm very honored to be here to be part of this festival. I'll also read a few poems, and then Sukrita, my dear friend, she has translated my work, so she will read the translation in English. And sometimes I think you will feel that translation is better than the original. She's so good. So the first poem is I've just written a few weeks back. I'll read in Hindi. कि एक दिन में 1000 बार मुझे याद आते हो आप रह रह के। एक दिन में 1000 बार मुझे याद आते हो आप रह रह के। अपना चेहरा ही चुभने लग जाए, डर लगे खुद के पास रहने में। अपना चेहरा ही चुभने लग जाए, डर लगे खुद के पास रहने में। चैन आए, करार मिलने लगे, देर तक जब उदास रहने में। याद आते हो आप रह रह के। रात में दूर ट्रेन की सीटी जब कभी भी सुनाई देती है। रात में दूर ट्रेन की सीटी जब कभी भी सुनाई देती है। ऊंचे नीचे पहाड़ी रास्तों पे धुंध में बस दिखाई देती है। याद आते हो आप रह रह के, या अचानक खराब मौसम में प्लेन जब बादलों में घिर जाए, या अचानक खराब मौसम में प्लेन जब बादलों में घिर जाए, फिर लगेज बेल्ट पे कभी जिस दिन देर तक सूटकेस ना आए, याद आते हो आप रह रह के, एक दिन में 1000 बार मुझे याद आते हो आप रह रह के. थैंक यू.
I will read the same poem in English, which is probably still a little raw. It's one of the latest ones of Vishal Bhardwaj. 1,000 times a day, again and yet again, I think of you. To have your face jab at you, to fear being with yourself, to find peace, to get solace in being sad for so long. Again and yet again, I think of you. The distant whistle of the train in the night, whenever it can be heard, on the tracks of the high and low mountains, when the bus is seen in the misty dark. Again and yet again, I think of you. Or then, all at once, in bad weather, when the plane is caught amidst clouds, and when on the luggage belt the suitcase does not arrive for long. Again and yet again, I think of you. Thank you.
Yeah. So I'll read the second poem. It's a ghazal. उसका मतला है कि मैं पलट आऊंगा दे सदा वक्त है, मैं पलट आऊंगा दे सदा वक्त है, मोड़ पर तेरी खातिर रुका वक्त है, मैं पलट आऊंगा दे सदा वक्त है, मोड़ पर तेरी खातिर रुका वक्त है, वक्त है जैसे आकाश चलता हुआ, वक्त है जैसे आकाश चलता हुआ और आकाश ठहरा हुआ वक्त है. Now the next couplet is for a long distance relationship in two different countries where the timings are different. कि दिन में एक चांद सा शब में सूरज लगे, दिन में एक चांद सा शब में सूरज लगे, दिल में धड़के तेरे देश का वक्त है. और आखिरी शेर कि आजकल कटघरे में है मुंसिफ खड़ा, आजकल कटघरे में है मुंसिफ खड़ा, क्या सजा खुद को देगा बता, वक्त है. थैंक यू.
Call me. I shall return. There is time. Time lingers at the corner for you. Time is like the sky on the move, and the sky is time paused. Moon in the day, at night like the sun. In the heart throbs the time of your land. The accused is also the judge. How will he punish himself? Bad are the times. Thank you.
A very long meter, and this poem is like I like this poem, and this is my favorite because in this the gadgets around us, how they find their place in contemporary work we do, and how they find place in romance and daily life. So the matla is कि रात भर नेट पे दिल को थामे हुए, रात भर नेट पे दिल को थामे हुए, अपने इनबॉक्स का चेहरा तकता रहा, रात भर नेट पे दिल को थामे हुए, अपने इनबॉक्स का चेहरा तकता रहा, एक ईमेल आने की उम्मीद में जुगनुओं की तरह जलता बुझता रहा। धूप निकली मगर फीकी फीकी लगी, धूप निकली मगर फीकी फीकी लगी, जैसे कल फोन पे तेरी आवाज थी। धूप निकली मगर फीकी फीकी लगी, जैसे कल फोन पे तेरी आवाज थी। सर्दी इतनी नहीं थी मगर फिर भी एक कपकपी सी रही, मैं सिहरता रहा। कितने दिन बाद उसने ठहाके भरी अपनी तस्वीर तो पोस्ट की है मगर, कितने दिन बाद उसने ठहाके भरी अपनी तस्वीर तो पोस्ट की है मगर, उसमें आंखों के पीछे छुपाया हुआ एक छोटा सा आंसू चमकता रहा। रात भर नेट पे दिल को थामे हुए अपने इनबॉक्स का चेहरा तकता रहा, एक ईमेल आने की उम्मीद में जुगनुओं की तरह जलता बुझता रहा। ओवर टू सुकृता।
Holding my heart in my mouth, gazing at the inbox, I sat all night, waiting for an email, hope flickering like fireflies all night. The sun emerged feeble, like your voice on the phone yesterday. It wasn't too cold, yet a shiver took hold of me, kept me a quiver. After so long has she posted her picture, filled with laughter, but concealed behind her eyes is sparkling a tiny drop of tear. Thank you.
Now, a few very short poems, very small poems, just few images. Uh, uh, yeah, the title of this poem is Sardi, Winter. फिर से लिखेंगे कोहरे के कागज पे हम, गर्म सड़कों की तपती हुई दास्तां। फिर से लिखेंगे कोहरे के कागज पे हम, गर्म सड़कों की तपती हुई दास्तां। सेकना है यूं सर्दी के गालों को फिर, नोच कर जर्द मैदान की सूखी तपिश। सुकृता।
The sheet of fog. Once again will we write on the sheet of fog the sizzling saga of scorching roads. Thus will we warm the cheeks of winter, plucking the arid heat of the blanched land.
अगली जो छोटी सी पोएम है उसका उन्वान है टेम्पेस्ट, तूफान। This is about when my father died. It's a very sudden death. He was very long ago. So just the reference for that. कि एक आंधी थी आंगन उड़ा ले गई,
Ah,
एक आंधी थी आंगन उड़ा ले गई, मेरा घर बार उस रोज सड़कों पे था। एक आंधी थी आंगन उड़ा ले गई, मेरा घर बार उस रोज सड़कों पे था। बूढ़ा बरगद उखड़ के जमीन पे गिरा और जड़ें उसकी आकाश छूने लगी।
tempest. A storm blew the courtyard away. My home, my heart lay on the roads that day. Uprooted, the old banyan tree fell to the ground, its roots reaching for the skies above.
Next is it's called Halabaloo. बचपन में स्कूल की जब बिन कारण छुट्टी हो तो, बचपन में स्कूल की जब बिन कारण छुट्टी हो तो, मारे खुशी के बच्चों में कितना हल्ला होता है। बचपन में स्कूल की जब बिन कारण छुट्टी हो तो, मारे खुशी के बच्चों में कितना हल्ला होता है, बिल्कुल वैसा शोरोगुल मेरे अंदर होता है, जब मिलते हो अचानक तुम आते जाते रास्तों पर.
क्या बात है. Hallabaloo. When, for no reason, a holiday is declared at school, jubilant are the children. What a din they create. The same hullabaloo rises within me when, out of the blue, on some road, I run into you. It's a very sweet poem. I really like it.
And the last poem is called Main, I. This poem was part of my film Heather, uh, where Irfan narrates this as a character in that. And there's this very little story about this poem I would like to share. So when we were shooting this scene, so how cinema and poetry, they crisscross each other, they become, one at some point. So we were shooting this scene, and they were tied, they were in a torture chamber, this character. And Irfan, the great actor, we had. So there were only just one or two lines were written for the scenes where he's asked a question and he answers in just two lines. So Irfan, he came to me and he said that I think that this moment requires more lines or maybe a poem, and because as a character I feel like saying more. And I told him, but that I don't want to be verbose in this. This is enough. If what we are able to say in two lines are more than enough. And he insisted that no, we need to say something more. And he said, why don't you write a poem? And on a shoot, it's really the time is the essence of that, because we were in Kashmir and it was like minus 14, 15, and it was snowing outside. So I went into my room and I wrote this poem. And then later I, of course, for the book, thoda usko theek kiya. So I thought that it's worth sharing this small story behind this poem. So the poem is I, कि मैं ही था वो मैं ही हूँ, मैं ही था वो मैं ही हूँ, दरिया हूँ दरख्त भी, अर्श भी हूँ फर्श भी, दरिया हूँ दरख्त भी, अर्श भी हूँ फर्श भी, दैर हूँ हरम भी हूँ, सुन्नी हूँ शिया भी हूँ, पंडितों के हाथ में आरती के दीप सा, काजियों के माथे पे सजदे का निशान हूँ, दैर हूँ हरम भी हूँ, सुन्नी हूँ शिया भी हूँ, पंडितों के हाथ में आरती के दीप सा, काजियों के माथे पे सजदे का निशान हूँ, पादरी के सीने पे झूलती सलीब हूँ, मैं ही था वो मैं ही. Thank you.
Very nice. I was the one. I am the one. River am I, also a tree. Sky I am, the earth too. Temple am I, also a mosque. Shia I am, Sunni too. In the hands of the Pandits, like a diya for a prayer. On the forehead of a Qazi, a mark of obeisance. On the chest of the pastor, a swinging cross. I was the one. I am the one. Thank you.
Thank you, Sukrita, and thank you, Vishal. That was beautiful poetry, extremely evocative poetry. Thank you, and thank you for the wonderful translation, Sukrita. So, we're very happy that Hanan has been able to join us after all. Um, Thank you, Hanan. I'm so glad that your technical problems were resolved. And unfortunately, since you've joined us a little late and we have these time constraints, may I request you to read and share one of your poems? But before I invite you to read your poem, I would like to introduce Hanan to all of you. Hanan Ashrawi is a Palestinian leader, legislator, activist, and scholar who served as a member of the Leadership Committee and as an official spokesperson of the Palestinian delegation to the Middle East peace process, beginning with the Madrid Peace Conference of 1991. In 1996, she was appointed as the Palestinian Authority Minister of Higher Education and Research. Prior to that, she was Dean of the Faculty of Arts at Birzeit University and head of its Legal Aid Committee since the mid 1970s. May I invite you as a very illustrious guest of honor on the Kritya International Poetry Festival, Hanan, and may I request you to read and share one of your poems, please?
Well, I am really very honored and very happy to be with you, my distinguished poets. I listen to you. It is marvelous poetry, and I do believe that the poetry can cross all the borders and come to every heart, all the free men and women in the world. I write to you and read to you today from Palestine in our very critical time that we are facing atrocities of the occupation. My poem I will read about the war in Gaza. I will read it in Arabic to listen to the Arabic language because it's very, very poetic language. Well, I start. أعلم أنك الاستثناء إلى غزة الفلسطينية الوحيدة في مدينة المدائن الوحيدة تقاوم تقاوم. It is for Gaza in its war. صباح النصر، صباح المجد، صباح فلسطين، صباح قطيرات الندى، صباح الأمومة، صباح الطفولة، صباح الثائرين العاشقين الخالدين. يطالعني وجهك يأسرني، تتدفقين حياة، تعبرين فراشة للفجر، تسافرين فينا معنا وتقتربين من أحلامنا محارة للوطن. فجرا تقاومين، فجرا تعودين، فجرا تقفزين على الجراح. أبدء منتهى أنت، وأنت تغلقين وراءك كل بوابات الصمت وتعبرين أيقونة مخلدة التكوين. يا غزة، يا غزة، يا حاضر الماضي ووثبة المستقبل المعجون بزهيرات الدم الوضيء مفروشة على الرمال. أأنت الاستثناء أم أنت التفرد في زمن الزحام؟ هل أنت شيء أم أنت كل الأشياء؟ تسلحي في زفاف النصر مرفوعة على سواعد الرجال، بذلة خاخية وفوهة بندقية ولحن الله أكبر الله أكبر. هذا النداء الأخير في قافلة الرجوع. مزروع أنا بانتظار القافلة، أستحضر الآتي، أحتسب السنين معذبا. البحر بحري قد غاد مصلوبا، والرمل معشوق قصائدي قد صار غائبا، والشمس في حلة الشروق تغادرني مغدورا مقيدا بلا قيود. هل عادت عاد واستنهضت ثمود، أم تجلت في رحلة الظلم كل القواسي؟ وكنت وحيدة في زمن الوعد. أيتها الوحيدة الفريدة، أرادوك بعيدة وكنت إني الهوى فيا. أرادوك مشققة الجدران بائنة كبرى، مفتتة العروش مستباحة الساعات. هل سيطول الغياب وعلى الضفاف سكون، وعلى الحدود سكون، وعلى المذبح المخفي سكون؟ تذبح الأحلام ويتوقف الكلام. أشتاقك بحرا ورملا وإنسانا مقاتل. أشتاقك رحلة أبدية في فضاءات التعالي. أشتاقك لحنا قريبا لروحي ووعدا. كان الفضاء وكنت سيفا، وصار الفضاء وصرت أمرا. اليوم يومك، ورايات التحلي بالمجد مرصودة إليك. تجدو بالهوى العذري أغنية، والجرح النازف مصلوب على الرايات في غضب الرياح. هل غادر الرجال وتوقف الموج المعجل للحزن الليلكي وطال الغياب؟ ليس منا من يصيغ النصر وهما ويعيد الظامئين إلى دمي. ليس منا من يعاند تفاسير السؤال، وليس منا من يعيد تفاسير السؤال في محكم المقاومة. سلام إليك، سلام عليك، سلام إليك، سلام عليك. تقدمي هذا دمي، تقدمي هذا دمي. تجلدي لن تهزمي هذا دمي. تقدمي عمي صباحا غزة واسلمي. Thank you so much.
I'll read some parts of this poem in Hindi, which I have translated from English. So there is some loss in translation, perhaps, because when I hear Hanan recite, it seems to be a little different. This poem is about Gaza, and the title is "I understand you are Gaza, I understand you are the exception." मैं समझती हूँ तुम गाजा हो, मैं समझती हूँ तुम हो अपवाद। फिलिस्तीन में एकाकी गाजा के नाम, शहरों में सबसे अकेला शहर जो खड़ा है प्रतिरोध में। प्रतिरोध, जीत की सुबह, गौरव की सुबह, सुबह फिलिस्तीन, ओस की बूंदों की सुबह, मातृत्व की सुबह, बचपन की सुबह, विद्रोहियों की सुबह, शाश्वत प्रेमियों की सुबह। तुम्हारा चेहरा उभरता है, लुभाता मुझे अपनी अपार जीवंतता से। तुम सौंप देते भोर को तारे का जुगनू, तुम यात्रा करते हो हम में और हमारे साथ। तुम स्पर्श करते हमारे सपने, हमारी मातृभूमि का हीरा हो तुम। फिर कुछ आगे जाके पढ़ती हूँ। क्या अनुपस्थिति लंबी होगी और उन किनारों पर सघन चुप्पी है, उन सीमाओं पर पूरा सन्नाटा। उस अवैध गुप्त वेदी पर मारे गए हैं सपने और रुक गई सारी वाचालता। मैं याद करती हूँ तुम्हें, ललकती हूँ उसके लिए जो है दक्ष, और उस गति की निकटता के लिए। तुम्हारे समुद्र की याद में व्याकुल, व्याकुल तुम्हारी रेत और एक सन्नद्ध योद्धा के लिए। व्याकुल हूँ कि तुम हो यात्रा अनंत, उपेक्षा के खुले मैदान में। याद आती है मेरी आत्मा के निकट तुम्हारी सरगम। और एक वायदा, यह भाग्य था और तुम थे तलवार। किस्मत बन गई है मेरे जीवन का प्राप्य और तुम मेरे सत्य। आज का दिन तुम्हारा है, पताकाएं सजी हैं जीत के गौरव से सज्जित। बचाया तुम्हारे लिए पवित्र प्रेम में एक गीत, और सूली पर चढ़ा लहूलुहान घाव। पताकाओं के ऊपर हवाओं के गुस्से के समक्ष क्या जबरे लोग छोड़ गए मनुष्य, और रुक गई हैं बढ़ती लहरें। गहरी नीली निराशा के लिए एक बहुत लंबी पुकार। हम नहीं हैं जो रचते एक झूठी जीत, और डाल दो प्यास मेरे लहू में। हम नहीं जो दोहराते जताते प्रश्नों की व्याख्या, प्रतिरोध के भीतर से निकलती सामाजिक न्याय की अवधारणा। शांति हो तुम्हारे लिए, शांति हो तुम्हारे लिए, बढ़ो आगे बढ़ो, यही मेरा लहू है, बढ़ो आगे चलो, साहस रखो, नहीं हारोगे तुम, यह मेरा लहू है, बढ़ो आगे चलो, सुंदर सुबह मिले और शांति रहे सदा तुम्हारे साथ।
Thank you. Thank you so much. So beautiful.
Uh, thank you, Hanan. At least you came because you had real lot of problem in internet, and now you are. I'm happy that your internet is also good and your voice is also
I
good.
brought the technician to check everything. However, I really thank you very much. The poem is very beautiful in Indian language. I feel proud of it. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. So I think now Vinita can invite Sukrita, I invite Sukrita for vote of thanks. Okay.
Whoever can invite, please invite. I'm waiting. Well, I don't think this is going to be a kind of a ritual. It's not a ritual to be saying thanks to everyone. But first of all, I think one needs to thank the great power that Rati projects in putting everything together. Not that one has to thank oneself. We are all part of Kritya, but Rati, you are the one who is the engine, and we are just the train behind you. And this is fantastic the way year after year you put things together. And I think this year it was it's really reached a climax, the way you have internationalized the entire event in such a wonderful way with such beautiful, wonderful, sensitive poets. And I think it's very gracious of Vinita to have conducted the whole inaugural session with such grace and demeanor of the kind that she has. And of course, Rekha Sethi, who's been fervently translating. But now I would come to the more illustrious guests of honor, and particularly starting with Sachidanandan, our own dear Sachi, whom we have a lot of regard for not just writing poetry, but doing a lot of poetry and spreading it around and giving us a kind of a kickstart into the festival. Thank you very much, Sachi, for being here, for giving your time, and also very such wonderful poetry. And I don't know from where it keeps coming. It's like floods, that you create each time, and yet we don't drown all the time. We drown and we come out thanks to your wonderful poetry. And I would really, my heart extends in gratitude to Koan, who is such an illustrious poet with such wonderful, particularly those short poems. And towards the end, it almost looked as though in Korean he was chanting. It was like a chant. And also, thank you, Rekha, for bringing that effect also into the translation. And and of course, Vishal Bhardwaj, thank you for giving this time. I know that you are constantly very, very busy doing 10 other things, which are all very meaningful. We always look forward to your films, but now also we've started looking forward to your more and more poetry, and I'm always waiting. And the moment one comes into my lap, I quickly try and translate it. But really, it's a pleasure to be working with you with such grace and extremely polite demeanor that you have. Absolutely no arrogance whatsoever, which people with glamour may have. Thank you. Thank you for being what you are. And of course, Hanan, I think you have just made it today. It was, I mean, this kind of suffering and pain with a smile on your face. This is the beauty of poetry. And there is a seeking of peace in your voice. And even if one doesn't understand Arabic, there was that yearning and seeking with a cheer and not with an anxiety. And that is the beauty. Thank you very much for making it. It's been
Thank you
all
so much.
very lovely. And I
Thank
think
you.
all of us will go back with your voice and with everybody else's voices of poetry. And look, we are not really performing on a stage or anything. And yet, this kind of a conversation that we can have on this platform, it's also giving us a certain kind of tranquility, I think. It's done very peacefully this way. Otherwise, sometimes too many people in front of you, you are not listening to anyone. But I think we've all come together into a kind of maybe a symphony of kinds. Thank you very much for each one of
Thank
you
you.
giving
Thank you
time.
so much.
Thank you, Rati, most
Thank
of all.
you. Thank you, Habibi. Thank you.
Thank you, Sukrita, and thanks to you all, and thanks to poetry. And I remember my master, Ayappa Padikar, thank to him who gave me this such a wonderful gift, and thanks to friends who helped me to run this journey. Thank you, Hanan. At least you could
Thank you,
come. Thank
Habibi.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Koon. You are wonderful. I appreciate you, and thank you, Vinodji. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Bollywood is like
One
a
day you
star.
will be my guest in Palestine.
Yes, will come. And Bollywood is like a star, but you are here poet. So thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much. Thank you.